The door was unlocked. The lights were still on. And by midnight, the only sound inside the yogurt shop was the freezer's low hum, trying to hide what had just happened. In 1991, a fire at an Austin yogurt shop uncovered one of the most gruesome mass killings in Texas history. But the horror wasn't in the fire. It was in what firefighters found behind the counter. This story follows the flames, the failures, and the faces behind the file folders. It's about who was blamed and who was missed. You'll hear about coerced confessions, vanished evidence, and a DNA test that blew the case open, 2 decades too late. But most of all, this is about the 4 girls who never left that freezer. December 6, 1991, Austin, Texas. At 11:03 p.m., the last official customer walked out of "I can't believe it's yogurt." Inside, 4 girls were preparing to close up. Jennifer Harbison, 17. Sarah Harbison, 15. Eliza Thomas, 17. Amy Ayers, 13. The lights stayed on. No sign of struggle. Nothing suspicious, until the smoke alarm went off. Firefighters responded at 11:48 p.m., but what they thought was a minor electrical fire led to something far worse. Behind the counter, huddled in the walk-in freezer, were 3 bodies. Charred, bound with their own clothes, bullet wounds in their heads. One body lay separate, smaller, still warm. Amy Ayers had been shot twice, once in the head, once in the neck. Someone had returned to finish her off. Investigators noticed something strange right away. No forced entry. No sign of a robbery gone wrong. The cash register was open, but not emptied. There was no sign the back door had ever been locked. This was no smash and grab. It was controlled, calculated, cold. By 1999, 8 years later, police had arrested 2 men, Robert Springsteen and Michael Scott. Teenagers back in 1991, they had no criminal records. No evidence linked them to the crime scene, just their confessions. But those confessions, extracted under brutal marathon-style interrogations with no legal representation, no video, only typed transcripts. They claimed all 4 girls were raped. Investigators said the crime scene suggested otherwise. Then one said Amy had been killed with a sock. But Amy was shot. In 2008, 17 years after the murders, something game-changing happened. A DNA test on a vaginal swab from Amy Ayers revealed a male DNA profile. But it didn't match any of the 4 suspects. Not Springsteen, not Scott, not even the 2 other teens once briefly arrested and released. The DNA didn't match anyone in the FBI's system. It was a ghost. Despite the weak confessions and the DNA mismatch, Springsteen and Scott were convicted. Springsteen received the death penalty. Scott, life in prison. But in 2009, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals overturned their convictions. There would be no new trials, no new suspects, just a cold case getting colder. Sarah Harbison was only 15. She wasn't scheduled to work. But that night, she asked her older sister Jennifer if she could tag along, just to pass time until their mom picked them up. That choice sealed her fate. One decision, 1 extra hour, one family that lost both daughters in the same fire. Now, in 2025, HBO and A24 have cracked open the freezer again. With survivor testimonies, unreleased footage, and a new forensic breakdown of the scene. The public is asking what the police never answered. Who really killed those girls? Why was the case closed when the DNA screamed it wasn't over? Amy was still breathing when they found her. That meant she was alive. For all of it. The fear, the fire, and the final bullet. Her death wasn't instant. It was delayed. And deliberate. The killer came back. That's the part people forget. Whoever did this stood in that fire and made sure she never told a soul. 3 decades later, Austin still whispers about the yogurt shop. Parents drive past the site in silence. Children ask why there's no plaque. Some say the killer is dead. Others say he never left Texas. But the girls? They never left that freezer. And now, maybe, neither should we. Subscribe to the Chronodark for more true stories that were buried, but never forgotten. Speech Balloon, drop your theory in the comments. Was justice ever served? Or was the wrong door kicked in from the start? In early 1992, less than 4 months after the murders, the Austin PD documented every piece of evidence they collected. Burnt clothing, a matchbook from a nearby convenience store, bullet fragments, shoe prints in the ash, and a partial palm print near the freezer door. But by 1995, that palm print disappeared from the records. So did the matchbook and the initial witness notes. When asked in court about the missing files, one detective simply replied, "We must have lost it in the fire." But the fire was in the yogurt shop, not the police station. Detectives Hector Polanco and Ron Lara led the case. Polanco was already controversial. Just 1 year earlier, he had extracted a false confession in another Texas murder case. That man? Exonerated. In 1991, Polanco used the same tactics: marathon interrogations, sleep deprivation, no lawyer on Scott and Springsteen. In his words, "Sometimes you gotta make the pieces fit." The problem? These pieces didn't fit anything, except the narrative police wanted. Years later, during the HBO documentary's production, an old box surfaced in a private storage unit belonging to a retired officer who had never returned it. Inside was a Betamax tape, labeled simply, "Scott Day 2, no lawyer." The footage, unseen by jurors, showed a sleep-deprived Michael Scott curled in a chair, shaking. He was told, off-camera, that he could go home if he gave them what they needed. That night, he confessed to a version of the crime that didn't match physical evidence, witness timelines, or forensic analysis. In 2023, a new forensic tool, YSTR analysis, allowed scientists to separate mixed male DNA from samples previously too degraded to test. When they ran the yogurt shop swab again, they got a hit, but not to a person, to a family line. The DNA belonged to a man now deceased, an itinerant carnival worker who passed through Austin in late 1991. His name has not been released publicly, but he had a cousin, still alive, serving time for the 1993 rape of a teenage girl in Waco. They've never been questioned. Not once. One woman, Beverly, a regular at the shop. On December 6th, she claims she walked past the alley behind the store shortly after 11 p.m. She saw 3 men she didn't recognize. One wore a green army coat. One was smoking and laughing. One looked directly at her. She remembered his eyes. She gave a statement in 1992. It was filed under non-credible. That page never made it into the trial binder. Using timestamps, receipts, and employee logs, HBO's investigation team reconstructed the final 60 minutes inside the shop. 10:45 p.m., the last yogurt cone was sold. 11:03 p.m., Register closed. 11:07 p.m. Someone came through the back door. 11:15 p.m. A light turned off. 11:18 p.m. Amy's final scream was heard by a neighbor, but mistaken for a TV. 11:48 p.m. The fire department arrived. In 33 minutes, 4 lives were ended. But one killer, maybe more, walked away untouched. Amy was only 13. Her autopsy revealed soot in her lungs. That means she was breathing when they set the fire. She wasn't unconscious. She wasn't dead. She was alive, burning. And in her final moment, as the freezer filled with black smoke, she may have seen the killer's face. To this day, no one has been convicted of the yogurt shop murders. No new trial, no confession, just silence and DNA. For families were promised justice. What they got was a cold case full of holes, erased evidence, and a freezer that now only holds memories. The HBO documentary ends with a quote from Jennifer Harbison's mother. "When people ask if I think the killer's still alive, I say yes. Because my nightmares haven't died yet." Candle, if you watched this far, you now carry part of their story. Bell, subscribe to the Chronodark for more dark truths history tried to bury. Speech Balloon, drop a comment. Do you believe the killer ever faced justice? Or is the freezer door still open? Pushpin, and remember, evil doesn't disappear. It just changes its name.